A ghost town forms when the pulse of the economy stops beating, or when nature refuses to compromise with human greed. In Oklahoma, these traces seem scattered along old trade corridors, former oil boom pockets, and indigenous jurisdiction areas. The removal of towns from administrative maps is not just ordinary migration, but the result of extreme events, from cowboy shootouts and highway regulations to massive contamination from toxic industrial waste. Broken brick walls, rusting gas stations, and wild vegetation pushing through old bank floors remain as physical evidence. Well, to uncover the full story behind them, this video reveals more than a dozen ghost towns as Oklahoma's dead points, places that slowly collapsed, fell silent, and became fully controlled by the past. First, it is hard not to include Picher early in the discussion. Located at the far northeastern edge of Oklahoma, this town stands as the most terrifying dystopian monument in the United States. Picher was once a major center of zinc and lead mining, home to more than 9,000 people. But now, it is part of the Tar Creek Superfund site, a total evacuation zone free from domestic life. Its destruction was not caused by depleted resources, but by the buildup of tens of millions of tons of mining waste that poisoned groundwater with lead, triggering a chronic health crisis among generations of local children. The ground beneath the settlement was reported to resemble Swiss cheese because of a maze of underground tunnels dug without proper support pillars, leaving the land vulnerable to collapse at any time. Yes, Picher today is completely dead, leaving only leaning power poles, cracked asphalt filled with weeds, and dark gray waste piles dominating the horizon. It creates a horrifying view of how industry can erase a city from civilization. Leaving the toxic industrial landscape in the northeast, we move towards central Payne County and find Wild West cowboy history frozen in the soil of Ingalls. In the late 19th century, Ingalls was a small settlement of around 150 people, known as the safest hideout for the Doolin-Dalton Gang, one of America's most wanted train and bank robbery gangs. The silence in Ingalls broke on September 1st, 1893, when a group of U.S. deputy marshals slipped into town using covered wagons and triggered one of the bloodiest gunfights in Western history. Several civilians died in the unavoidable shootout, while most gang members escaped through clouds of dust. The deaths of pioneers and the shift in rural economic routes gradually left Ingalls abandoned until almost nothing remained. Today, the ghost town of Ingalls leaves behind a quiet stretch of land now surrounded by private farm property. History lovers can only find replica wooden buildings, a stone battle marker, and prairie silence that seems to still hold the echo of Winchester gunfire from a century ago. Next is Texola, a ghost town on classic Route 66. Although it still has fewer than 10 permanent residents, this town suffered a strange identity crisis during its early growth. Because of careless errors and miscalculations by government land survey teams in the early 20th century, the state border was moved repeatedly, forcing Texola to shift jurisdiction between Texas and Oklahoma 8 times. Drivers passing through Texola today are met by rows of empty buildings that give off a strong melancholy feeling. Along its dirt roadside stands a stone jail as small as a bedroom, built in 1910, with rusted iron bars still intact in its concrete walls. Texola's economic glory collapsed instantly when Interstate 40 opened, cutting off the local trade route. The political border dilemma in Texola reminds us of a far more extreme lawless area at the very top of the Panhandle, a place once nicknamed Beer City. Located in an isolated part of Beaver County, this area in the late 19th century was part of no man's land. a strip of territory literally claimed by no state and beyond the reach of American federal law. This geographic anarchy was used by speculators to build a temporary settlement dedicated entirely to prostitution, gambling, and the distribution of illegal beer to cowboys from Kansas, where dry anti-alcohol laws were enforced. Beer City's history ended when the area was officially absorbed into Oklahoma Territory in 1890, triggering a mass cleanup operation by law enforcement. Today, not a single building post remains. Beer City has completely become a wide wheat field, hiding shards of old glass bottles beneath the silence of farmland. From the quiet wheat fields of a former outlaw den, there is Cardin, a town a few miles south of Picher. Cardin itself was an inseparable part of the lead mining district that piled up toxic pollution. Like Picher, Cardin's collapse was caused by heavy metal contamination that the human body could no longer tolerate, worsened by the threat of ground collapse from a network of vertical caves beneath residential zones. The federal government officially dissolved Cardin's legal town status in 2010 after the last residents agreed to accept evacuation compensation and pack their belongings. Visiting Cardin today offers a different level of silence from an ordinary ghost town. There are no grand downtown structures, only rows of concrete sidewalks now overgrown with wild oak trees, store signs faded beyond recognition, and the remains of rusty clothesline poles in yards where homes have been demolished. Meanwhile, this town has a different story. Located deep inside the southern Wichita Mountains, Meers was founded in 1901 during a brief gold rush wave. But after false reports about massive gold deposits spread widely in newspapers, people realized that the ore quality was too low to process commercially. Today, Meers is technically classified as a ghost town because all of its old settlement structures have disappeared, leaving only one main building still standing: Meers Store and Restaurant. This old building made of rusty sheet metal is famous across America for serving giant burgers made from Texas longhorn beef. The restaurant's absolute uniqueness is the presence of an active seismograph that keeps trembling as it records earthplate activity, because Meers stands directly above one of the most sensitive active geological faults in Oklahoma. The uniqueness of Meers' single building gives way to the tragic story of Bridgeport. Located along the northern bank of the South Canadian River, this town was once crucial for travelers on historic Route 66. Bridgeport even prospered in the 1920s as a busy rest stop, complete with hotels, repair shops, and restaurants serving thousands of passing vehicles. Disaster began in 1933 when a new steel bridge was built a few miles east of town, moving the main flow of Route 66 away from its business district. The final blow came when Interstate 40 was built, completely isolating Bridgeport from the modern economic network. Today, the once busy settlement has shrunk into a quiet corridor, with the remains of its post office building fully collapsed by age. The old Pony Bridge near town stands as a silent witness to past glory, carrying empty air above the drying river. From Bridgeport's economic isolation, we find a town born from the madness of the oil boom, yet ended like this. A few miles south of Bristow, an area that was once quiet forest turned into an instant metropolis in 1920, when more than 5,000 people arrived in less than 1 month after the slick #1 oil well sprayed black liquid from the earth. Its fate turned 180 degrees when natural gas pressure dropped sharply by the end of that same decade, drying up oil reserves and forcing the entire industry to leave as quickly as it had arrived. Exploring Slick's forest vegetation reveals a deeply surreal sight. Behind thick trees and dense brush stands the massive concrete structure of the former State Bank of Slick, complete with a giant rusted iron vault door, now fully isolated from modern civilization. If Slick is a product of 20th century industrial madness, the ghost town of Boggy Depot takes us much farther back to the American Civil War era of the 19th century. This settlement was founded in 1837 as an important Choctaw Indian trading post. It grew into a prosperous capital of Indigenous territory and served as a major military logistics base for Confederate forces during the Civil War in the western interior. Its decline happened gradually after the war ended, triggered by a political decision from the Missouri-Kansas-Texas Railroad, which chose to build its main rail line through the town of Atoka a few miles to the east. The area is now managed as a state historic park, where visitors can only find an old cemetery with cracked stone headstones belonging to 19th century soldiers, covered by the shadows of giant silent oak trees. Meanwhile, Warwick offers a contrasting visual focus, a melancholy scene of modern ruins. Located along the crossing between Route 66 and an old railroad route, this ghost town leaves behind only the remains of an old gas station known as Warwick Grocery. The building, made of brick and wood during the Great Depression era, has been left almost exactly as it originally was, surrounded by rusting old-style gas pumps. Uniquely, inside it are many old motorcycles from different eras. Warwick was once a shipping center for agricultural products and a reliable transit town for local cotton farmers. The main appeal of this ghost town's emptiness centers on the extinction of small commercial activity, once the lifeblood of rural American life. In the same administrative area, Sparks presents a dramatic dystopian view. The brick wall facade of a two-story building stands upright without windows or a roof, looking like an abandoned war movie set in the silence of nature. Founded in 1902 during the land opening period for the Eastern Oklahoma Railway, Sparks once declared itself a new center of economic growth because it had 3 railroad lines crossing near the edge of town. The town's population rose quickly, followed by the construction of a modern business district made up of rows of multi-story red brick storefronts. But its prosperity broke halfway through after a series of major fires in the mid-20th century destroyed much of its valuable uninsured commercial inventory. The fire tragedy in Sparks feels very recent compared with the older history at the ghost town site of Scullyville. Scullyville once grew into an advanced center of education and culture in the interior territory, but it was completely destroyed during the Civil War, followed by a cholera outbreak that killed 1/3 of the population within weeks. Today, this place is a vast stretch of wild grass, where the only physical evidence left is the old Scullyville Cemetery, holding hundreds of unnamed headstones beneath the watch of dense old trees. Scullyville itself was founded in 1832 as the first capital of the Choctaw Indian Nation, after they were forced to walk hundreds of miles during the Trail of Tears. From the disappearance of Indigenous history in Scullyville, we return to the dystopian reality of heavy metal mining in the north, specifically in the ghost town of Hawkerville. This small settlement completes Oklahoma's deadly triangle of toxic ghost towns alongside Picher and Cardin. Founded in 1916, the town was built specifically to house laborers who operated medium-scale zinc mining machines along the Kansas-Oklahoma border. Hawkerville never reached metropolitan size, but it had an intense daily rhythm before mercury and lead contamination were declared dangerous to human genetic safety. When the federal forced relocation program was approved, Hawkerville became one of the first areas to collapse because of its fragile economic structure. Video footage from Hawkerville shows a raw level of visual destruction. Miners' wooden cabin homes left to rot and collapse into the ground. 1950s sedan wrecks buried in thorny brush, and a dry white landscape that refuses to grow normal vegetation because of industrial toxins. Next, let's move toward Creek County to see Shamrock. Founded in 1908 during the early wave of massive oil discoveries, this town, now home to only a handful of people, was built on the eccentric vision of an Irish pioneer named J.M. Bolt. Driven by homesickness for the landscape of his homeland, Bolt designed the entire layout and identity of the town around green colors and Irish cultural symbols. Although the oil industry has long died out, leaving Shamrock as a sluggish small town with dozens of empty houses, the remaining small community here refuses to let the town's history fade into gray. The street signs in this ghost town are shaped like three-leaf shamrocks, and the main road markings are deliberately repainted with bright green lines from time to time. The most famous landmark here is the Green Shamrock Filling Station, built in an Art Deco style with glowing green ceramic material. Founded in 1892 during the era of the Oklahoma Land Run, Fallis became the final town to capture Oklahoma's quietest side. It was once projected to become a major transit town because of its strategic position. Fallis's decline happened like a domino effect after repeated flash floods destroyed its main railroad depot facilities, followed by falling global farm commodity prices during the Great Depression. Today, Fallis's population has shrunk drastically to near zero, making it a top destination for abandoned landscape photographers. In the silence of its dusty dirt roads stands the grand remains of the State Bank of Fallis, a two-story red brick building with its window spaces completely hollowed out. Wild tree roots grow through the concrete floor and crawl out between cracked walls, creating a poetic image of how nature takes back space once borrowed by human civilization.